Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm your host today, Val Pettigras, and with me, representing the 60th Assembly District, which includes Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and Staten Island, is Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis. Very good to have you here. This is your first show. This is your first session. You came in with an influx of all kinds of new members and new faces and a lot of new blood and energy. So tell me, what's your impression of it so far?
Well, look, I'm very much looking forward to this session. I believe that the choices that we make this session are really going to set the course for the state for many years to come. So I think everyone has been calling for change. It's something that the public has showed that this is a priority for them at the polls in November, and it's a lot. Many of us have campaigned on that as well, and that's how we got here. And I think it's very important that we stick to this in this coming session. And if the changes aren't made this year, they probably won't be made. And that's why it's very important that we fulfill our promises to really change the way government works here in Albany.
And let's talk a little bit about how you came to be in Albany, because your background, people are going to be interested in that. They're going to want to get to know who you are. So how did you come to be here?
Well, as you mentioned, this is my first term in office. This was also my first run for office. I am a lifelong New Yorker. I'm a resident of Staten Island, New York. I worked for both Senator John Markey, who was a state senator for 50 years here in Albany, who is a wonderful statesman, someone who I think contributed so much to the state and our community back at home. I also worked for Governor George Pataki. I was his liaison to Bay Ridge and Staten Island as well, which is really essentially my district now. So I had some experience in state government before. But this is my first run for office. I ran because I was just fed up with the direction of this state. I felt that we could no longer go on like this. I could no longer stay on the sidelines. And essentially, I was really just an unhappy constituent who wanted to see changes being made.
And I'm sure that bodes very well for Assembly Leader Cole, because he has welcomed about 17 or 18 new members, depending on what the court decision is. Let's listen to what he has to say at the swearing-in ceremony.
And now representing the 60th Assembly District, Nicole Malliotakis. Nicole is a strong community activist, and she's committed to public service for her constituents. And holding the Bible today for Nicole are her parents, Vera and George. Again, please join me in welcoming Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis.
I, Nicole Malliotakis.
I, Nicole Malliotakis.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of New York.
And the Constitution of the State of New York.
And will faithfully discharge the duties of.
Will faithfully discharge the duties of.
The office of Member of the Assembly.
The office of Member of the Assembly.
Of the State of New York.
Of the State of New York.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
And you can see it in your face and your families. And Leader Kolb's, what a proud moment that is for you.
It really was an historic victory. I mean, we defeated a two-term incumbent, and it wasn't easy. We did it by 10 points. I mean, I think it was really symbolic of what the change that my district was demanding at the time.
Speaking of change, the other thing that's new here is we have a new governor, Governor Cuomo, and he has delivered his State of the State as well as his budget address. He seems to be really in line with what Assembly Republicans have been talking about for a long time. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. I think the governor is really set a clear agenda, what he expects this session and next session, and I think he's right on target. He really is, and he is echoing a lot of the reforms that the Assembly Republicans have been calling on for years. And like I said, if this is the year for these changes to be made, if they're not this year, then it may never happen. And I believe that on the Republican end, we're very happy with the governor right now, and we think that he is, his priorities are correct, and we need to make these changes to the state. We need to cut spending across the board. We need to bring down Medicaid, which we just can't sustain $1 billion a week anymore in Medicaid spending. It's just completely out of control. We need to merge agencies and authorities to cut down on costs and bureaucracy. I mean, these are things that we have been talking about, and I'm really happy that we do have a governor who's serious about reforms this year.
Governor Cuomo gave his State of the State a few weeks ago to discuss the dire financial situation that New York faces. Let's hear what he had to say.
Another new year at the state capitol, bringing with it plenty of new faces.
For the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York.
And legislative leaders looking for cooperation in a diverse House.
Whether it's Manhattan or Montauk or Binghamton or Buffalo, if we're helping each other, that's the message that our constituents are looking for across this state. I think we have an opportunity to take our state to a level that's never been before.
New Governor Andrew Cuomo gave his first annual State of the State message.
What is the state of the state? This is a time of crisis for our state, a time when we must transform our government to once again become the progressive capital of the nation.
The new governor utilized a number of visuals to graphically display what's wrong with state government.
I'm very excited about today's speech. I think the State of the State was exactly on point. The points that he mentioned are the things that I'm committed to as my first year in the legislature. I really agree that the decisions that we make this year will set the course for many years to come. Unfortunately, we have an extreme tax burden in the state that we need to reduce. Our young people are leaving. Many of the people that I grew up with here in my community are gone. They've left for neighboring states. We need to start bringing business back to New York, and the way to do that is by putting a cap on taxes, a cap on spending, and also providing more economic opportunities for the young people in our community.
The governor now prepares his first ever budget proposal.
I want to go back to something that you said before we watched that, and that was, if not now, then never, because it seems like this is the perfect time. I mean, Leader Kolb talks about how this is the time that even though we have challenges, we could raise our state to a level it's never been before. We could actually take fiscal responsibility and, you know, stop with the scandals and the corruption and the things that we've seen here go on here in Albany.
No, absolutely. I think both of them in that video really were on target. Kolb has said, you know, it doesn't matter what part of the state we're from. It doesn't matter what party we're from. We all really want the same thing, and that is to preserve New York, to leave it in a better situation for future generations, to make sure that they have better opportunities than we did, and to make sure that New York remains the one place in the world where you can come and seek opportunities. And I think it's very important that we do make these changes, because we are on a destructive path right now. And if we don't make these changes, you know, this state is going to be very difficult to recover.
We're going to revisit that destructive path, because right now the governor has given his budget address about 2 weeks ago, and he has some very sobering points to make.
We're here to obviously talk about the 2011-12 executive budget.
Governor Andrew Cuomo pulled no punches as he explained to lawmakers why state government is facing billion-dollar deficits.
We spend too much money, which is not new, but it's worse. 74% increase over the past 10 years in spending. And when you look at what we spend more than we make, which is never a good formula in life.
The governor also made the point all that spending didn't buy the state all that much.
Well, maybe we spend a lot of money, but we get great product for it. We really get our money's worth. If only it were true. Number 1 in education, number 34 in results, number 1 in spending in Medicaid, number 21 in results, $1.6 billion in economic development, number 50 in terms of result.
Assembly Republicans say it's a message they've been giving for years.
Certainly a sobering message of cost reduction is sorely needed in state government, a message that I've been talking about for years. Consolidation of state agencies, less spending, no tax increases, which is very, very important. But it's going to be challenging times.
I think the governor's message was right on a target. I mean, we can't keep spending the amount of money we've been spending over the past years. 75% increase over the last 10 years in spending. This is the time to do it. This is the time to make those necessary and difficult cuts for this year to get this budget on time, hopefully, and and have it balanced, and next year as well. I think he's right on track with having to make the necessary cuts. They're going to be painful, but we need to make the cuts necessary to put the state back on track. We need to consolidate the size of government. We need to reduce spending in programs such as Medicaid.
Government is supposed to serve people. That's what this was about. And that's what we have to get back to.
The thing that I found most shocking was when he talked about economic growth and development and job creation.
Yeah.
50. We're the 50th state.
You know, that slide in the presentation showing what we spend and what our performance is, I think was the most powerful slide in the entire speech, because, you know, we're number 1 in spending in terms of education, but number 34 in results. I mean, we spend more than the national average in economic development. We're number 50, and it's because we have an unfriendly business climate. We have the most unfriendly business climate in the entire country. You know, I always felt that we should go back to the basics of economics, right? We can't tax our small businesses to death because they'll just close or they'll just leave. What we need to do is lower the burden, make it a friendlier environment for our businesses so they strive, they're successful, and as a result, they'll create more revenue, they'll create more jobs, and then the state will gain tax from that revenue. But it's, you know, a win-win situation. The more successful our businesses are, the more successful our state will be, the more money we'll be able to bring in based on their successes, not just taxing them to death.
What do you think got us into this problem in the first place? And I don't mean the spending part, because we have that established, but why would we be such an unfriendly business climate?
It's just, you know, I think we have just very, it's the tax policies that we have in the state. I mean, look what we did last year with the MTA payroll tax. I mean, basically, you know, during the biggest economic crisis, you're telling our business community, every job you create, we're going to penalize you. 33 cents every $100 of payroll. So every job you create, we're going to penalize you. We put the sales tax back on clothing. And my district, the Staten Island portion specifically, is surrounded by 3 bridges going to New Jersey. I mean, that just drives people in New Jersey to shop where there's no sales tax. So these are the types of policies that are affecting our small business community, making it difficult for them to survive, burdening our working families, burdening our senior centers. This is another example that I want to bring up. This week I've been visiting my local senior centers to tell them exactly how this executive budget will hurt them. You know, the governor proposes removing $37 million in funding for the Office of Child and Family Services. He suggests in his budget that we shift Title 20 money and move it over to pay for those state mandated programs on the city level. So basically, we have this $37 million hole that he wants to create. Then he wants us to take out Title 20 money, about $25 million of it, which funds, you know, it's about 25% of the funding for New York City senior centers. Take it from them and use it to pay for these child welfare, these mandated child welfare programs, which are important. But what you're doing here is you're putting seniors against children. And last year we saw about 50 different senior centers closed throughout New York City. This proposal, if this goes through, it's going to be another 110, approximately a third of our senior centers that will close. And we just cannot do this. We can't do this to our seniors, number one. First of all, we did it last year, and we see now the senior centers that remained are at capacity. We can't afford to cut anymore. Number two, our seniors spent their life building our communities, paying taxes. They've earned these programs. So for me, it's unacceptable to say, take the money from the seniors and give to the child welfare programs. It's not a good remedy. Myself, Senator Golden, a couple other elected officials, we are calling on the governor to use his 21-day amendment power to change that proposal, restore that $37 million.
And this is something that we want to catch up with you and see exactly the outcome of that. For now, we're out of time, but we do have time to let you out there know how to reach your representative. Please contact Assemblywoman